Hey all, Josh with Battlebond here. So, game two of our three-game series of an MESBG tournament that Dan and I attended. So, for this particular game, the scenario that was rolled up was Duel of Wits. So, let's just have a look at that quickly. So, here's the deployment zone. So, basically, a 12-inch circle that no one can deploy in. We're split opposite corners again. And then the scoring conditions on this are pretty strange. So basically, what ended up happening is in secret, Dan and I had to pick a character that we needed to kill slash wound in order to get points, and then obviously the other team had to do the same thing. And if the model that either of us picked ends up within 6 inches of the center at the end of the game and isn't dead, um, the opposing team gets points for that. If we wound or kill the model or models that we pick, we get points for that. And then breaking, obviously, and in this case, having a banner also nets you points. So the characters we had to pick, you actually have to pick them in secret from your partner, and same obviously with the other team has to do that as well. So there's no like we didn't really strategize or anything about this again because we didn't realize the scenarios that we were going to be playing today or this day were the ones from the doubles section and not just the regular scenarios that you normally get. And when I go over the list, you guys will see why this was kind of a hard decision. And I obviously made the wrong one, but thankfully Dan was smart enough to make the right one, and that helped us out a lot for the end of the game. So let's bring this up here, and then let's talk about the list here. This list was pretty fun. So we played Jacob and Kyle, and they were Guldur and Moria allied together. So it was the Necromancer, the WitchKing, and the Forsaken, and then the Balrog, and two Moria Blackshields with spear, and four Moria Blackshields. So pretty crazy list. You guys can, and it was hard to decide who to pick for doing wounds slash killing because obviously the the two ring wraiths come back on twos, and the necromancer has 25 fate essentially. So what ended up happening is I secretly picked the Witch King, and Dan secretly picked the Necromancer. Uh, and we kind of just went from there. Obviously, we didn't find out who picked what until the end of the game. So, yeah, let's see how we fared in this one. So, just looking at our deployments here. So, I am down here. I'm as far to the side as I can be. So, if we look for our deployment zones here, so this is like the middle right here. It's like this, and then there's that 12-inch circle that we couldn't deploy in. So you can see the Balrog is basically doing the same thing I am and deploying as far up as possible because of the circle and as far over as possible. The Necromancer and the Ringwraiths are over here, and then Aragorn and the Rangers are over here. So we can see obviously Balrog is going to make a beeline over here, and actually so are the Necromancer and the Ringwraiths, and then the Moria Goblins are actually way over, as far over in the corner as they can get, essentially. So yeah, we had no idea what to do from here, really. So yeah, here we can see the Moria Goblins are just hanging out. Corner, everyone else is basically over on this half of the table. So, round one here. So Dan moved all his guys from here to up here to try and at least somewhat avoid the Balrog. The Necromancer and the Ring Wraiths moved up from over here. I did a march with my undead, so that's how they ended up where they were. And then I decided to split these three off to head over towards those goblins because the only real chance that we had was to break these guys, and the only way we could really do that was to kill all of the goblins. So once all the goblins are killed, they're broken. And there's the goblins just hanging out, doing their thing. It's a pretty bad picture. Someone's elbow is in the way. But you guys can see... Oops. So, getting to the end of round one here. So, what is funny is that the WitchKing actually died from ranger shooting, and then the roll to bring him back up for round two ended up being a 1. So our opponent here had to use a might to get the WitchKing back. So close. I almost achieved my secret objective, but it wasn't quite meant to be. And then as far as everything else round two, it was just a lot of like moving guys up, getting into combat, chasing after goblins, trying to keep the Balrog at bay. And this is kind of where we discussed it afterwards and decided that this is probably where we would have rather had Aragorn with his sword, because if he's wounding the Balrog on at most 4s, that's a really huge deal. And it would have been a pretty easy pick for us, to be honest, because, you know, he could always just strike up, and then if he wins the combat, it's a pretty good outcome. So yeah, chasing down those goblins. So here we get into round 3. And you can see there's a big scrum here. So this actually ended up being a pretty pivotal turn for us. So what happened is the Forsaken got killed, but came back up the previous round. So of course, we had a move called by Aragorn, which let all of us get into combat. So it was basically, I charged everything that I could into the Necromancer, who's right here, including Aragorn, who also got in there. And then we decided to try to feed Rangers into the Balrog to hold him up. And then, yeah, I had some more warriors get in over here with the ring race. And then you can see King of the Dead is right here. So basically I just circled him around to try and keep him close to the center. It seemed pretty obvious that their choice was going to be Aragorn for both of them, because between Aragorn and the King of the Dead, he's the easier one to kill. And he was so close to the Balrog right off the bat. But I figured it didn't hurt to keep him here. And he's here to kind of hold out in case they decide to send some of their guys around over this way. I was pretty confident that the King of the Dead could at least put up a fight against whatever he sent this way. And then you can see this cavalry model here. I decided I needed something a little faster to get over to those goblins. So that's where this guy's headed. zoom in here a little so you can see there's the Necromancer being charged by a boatload of models. So that charge was actually huge for us because it ended up being a cavalry charge. We won, knocked him over, and he took a total of 4 wounds. And then the big deal comes with, as he's rolling for his fate dice, he actually burned through 10 willpower to stay alive. So once that happened, in my mind I was like, oh, well, maybe the Necromancer's a little more killable than I originally thought, which is why I decided to pick the WitchKing, because I figured we would have a better chance of him rolling a 1 on the WitchKing to come back than actually having the Necromancer die. But apparently we were on a hot streak with regards to killing the Necromancer. And then, yeah, the Balrog killed these 2 rangers, no problem. So here we go on to round 4. And the evil side wins priority. Aragorn calls a move with his free might, which they don't counter, so we get to dictate charges again. So again, we're trying to feed the Balrog 1 model at a time, so you can see there's the ranger right there, and then everyone's kind of moving in. So this rider came over here to try and get some kills on the ringwraiths that are over here with the undead. The Necromancer's still over here. He's knocked prone, so we charge him again with everything we have around here. And then obviously everything that was going this way is headed over to the goblins still, because they're right in the corner. So with regards to combats this round, the Balrog actually ends up losing to the ranger, which was hilarious. But to make up for the last round and all of the willpower that the Necromancer blew through, he actually wins the combat. So even though there's, I think there's something like 8 models in combat with him, and he has his 1 attack, he wins, unfortunately, and we all have to back off, which sucks. And then, yeah, here's everybody going over to chase down the goblins. So, actually, so you can see there's like a die right here. So what ended up happening is the Moria player sent 2 of his goblins to just on the other side of this rock, and they just climbed up it. And that dice is just indicating whereabouts they're hanging out. So right now there's 2 here, 2 here, and then 2 up here. We can see that. So going into round 5, we lose a priority again. You can see it every now and then. You can see the little marker here for evil. So Aragorn does a move with his free might once more, and no counter from that. So we do our best to get stuff into combat, and we don't really do anything in combats except for lose guys. The Balrog kills 2 models. Yeah, not much to say about that. It's just a long slog. We're continuing to chase down goblins over here, because as soon as we get into combat with them, they basically just die. So going into round 6 here. So we win priority, and the Forsaken actually calls a move, and we counter with Aragorn, and they actually win it. So there's no more free charges on the Necromancer, which is why you see him over here. He actually ends up moving, I think, over this way a little bit. But what ends up happening is he turns himself invisible, too. So it's a little bit harder to attack him, do anything to combat him. So this round is kind of a wash. So we're still feeding models into the Balrog over here. What what actually ends up happening this round with that is the Balrog loses to a ranger and takes a wound, and that ends up being the only wound the Balrog took all tournament. So yay for us. It's pretty hilarious. And then over here you can see catching up to the goblins, and we end up killing all of the goblins on the ground, so we're just left to deal with the ones on that big rock that's back there. So yeah, you can see there's the other goblins. They were trapped, and then these ones, they're hanging out right here, but again, they're actually up here. Okay, so round 7. Oops, keep doing that. So round 7, obviously, Balrog's moved around over this way. And we're continuing to feed him one guy at a time to try and keep him at bay. We're doing our best to attack the ring wraiths, try and kill them. The Necromancer has actually come around over this way. And because of that, my cavalry model that was able to mop up those goblins over there is actually going to start heading over this way. So not too much going on with regards to combats, just more slogging it out. Goblins die, ring wraiths die, but they're just going to come back next round, spoiler alert. And we're just doing our best to try and get to the Necromancer, because at this point actually he's lost another 3 will from casting. So he's getting low, and we're trying to take care of that. So sorry, it's 3 will from casting, and then a bunch of will from every time he's been in combat, which has basically been every round up to last round as well. So I think he's down to like 5 or something like that at this point. So it's getting pretty close, and he's trying to get within 6 of the center, which is right here. So he can hang out there, because obviously that was one of the objectives. And he didn't know that Dan had picked him, but it's a smart play for sure. Yeah, Aragorn's right here. So got to get him around and out of there as well. Don't want him that close to the Balrog. So here is those goblins. So you can see this is the corner where those ones were hanging out. So they died. These guys up here. This guy tried to climb, failed. So yeah, pretty useless right now. And we really need to kill those goblins and break them. Okay, so we are pretty much out of pictures at this point. So this is going to be the last picture we're going to see. And that's just because we were getting pretty low on time, so we kind of stopped taking pictures. So what ended up happening here is we were continuing to feed models into the Balrog. I ended up with a combat where there were 4 undead against the Balrog shielding, and they won, which was awesome, keeping him at bay. Aragorn was coming around over this way, trying to come back over here so we could get him near the center, because we were getting close to the end of the game, because you can see, so basically almost all of the rangers are dead. There's only two, or yeah, two. Most of the undead have also been killed. So we've hit our breaking point at this point, and we're just trying to break them and catch up. You can see the King of the Dead was over here. He charged the Necromancer. So we're trying to get our last few fate off of the Necromancer there. And then, yeah, you can see the cavalry models coming in. This guy is coming in. So basically what ended up happening for the end of the game is my undead models were able to climb up onto that pillar that was over there, and we were able to kill those goblins. This guy was able to get in here, and the King of the Dead was able to charge in again. This guy failed his terror check, and we ended up actually killing the Necromancer. We couldn't do any more wounds to the ring wraiths, unfortunately. And then Aragorn ended up getting stuck somewhere over around like here. So he couldn't quite make it within 6 inches of the center here. And that's basically where the game ended. So they were broken, we were broken. We had killed the Necromancer. They hadn't killed any of our heroes. So it ended up being a 5-3 win for us. So we got 2 for killing the Necromancer, and 2 for having our banner that's alive, and 1 for breaking them. And they got 1 for breaking us, and 2 for having the WitchKing within 6 of the center. So yeah, that's it for this game. Narrow win, which after our first game was a happy change of pace. It was a really fun game. Pretty much went the distance. Really interesting list to play against. Neither of us have played against the Necromancer or the Balrog. So it was fun to see those guys in action. Fun to get a wound done on the Balrog. So yeah, if you guys are liking these battle reports, make sure to tune in and check out the last one of our 3-game series. If you like what you're watching, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you feel like helping us out, check out our store at etsy.com/shop/Battlebond miniatures, where we sell a variety of 3D printed goodies like proxies for games like 40k or Middle-earth strategy battle game, as well as various sci-fi and fantasy terrain options. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon.